have, the more you stand to lose. So go ahead and play. Just don't forget, the game is fixed.
Yes, that's an actual line from the actual advert for Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty.
I thought that was so clever.
And it means so much. It is a very, very loaded line, because you think about, what does the game being fixed mean, right? Well, first of all, it means the game is fixed. It means the game is now good. It means the game is playable. It's, you know, it's better than ever, all those things. But it is also an admission of guilt, because in order to be fixed, it has to be broken in the first place. They didn't say the game is better. They didn't say the game is improved. They said the game is fixed. That line made me think of what the Cyberpunk cinematic director said on Twitter a while ago. He said, "I wouldn't retroactively change the past. The game had a lot of problems. I think the overall mood, story, characters, art direction, gameplay, and music were solid from the start, but bugged and undercooked or not working. We had to fix it, and that's what we did. That's the story." He said that in response to a meme.
I don't think that's a big deal, right? I mean, like, they brought out the game, and again, like, you know, they had this Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red had, like, they outsourced a lot of their QA to, like, this other company that, like, there was a lot of, like, really weird, like, bad, shady shit that happened, right? Like, I watched 2 or 3 videos about this. There was a number of articles that I looked at in relation to it as well, and it was very problematic. It was a bad idea. It's their responsibility, and they are accountable for that. But, like, I think that you can also realistically assume that this was they did not try to make it bad. It just simply happened as a result of bad management and bad oversight. You see what I'm saying? So, like, again, like, what I'm saying is that, like, it was not something that was intrinsic to the CD Projekt Red process cycle. Because, like, for example, if you have something like that happen, you have this weird studio that doesn't, it's fucked up, right? Like, yeah, you messed up, you definitely did. But, like, you'll assume that they're not going to do that again. But, like, if you have a company that just makes a bad game and, like, there's no fixing that, then that's a thousand times worse, in my opinion.
Post just saying Cyberpunk is good, actually, always has been. And that's a narrative that I think no one at CDPR outside of maybe management would like. In my eyes, I think the truth always comes to fruition, right? The truth always finds a way to manifest itself. And if you want the truth to come to light about things you're reading online, check out today's sponsor.
Ground.news, an app and website that puts power in your hands, and with my link, you'll get 30% off their Vantage plan. Now, what they do is they ingest over 50,000 articles a day. They organize them by story. They break down how many sources are reporting on each topic, along with political bias and ownership. And that actually lets you quickly compare the headlines and the different outlets to see what is actually...
It's actually cool. I like that.
...going on out there. I'm in the States right now, so it's been fun seeing what's up there. Also, the breaking story of the writer's strike. It's actually coming to seemingly a bit of an end.
They're the gaming, like writers. I think it's also like voice actors they might also do a strike sometime soon. I've heard about that.
Now, this was mostly covered by the center, largely covered by the left, and barely covered by the right. Even though that's news, it's obviously relevant to all of us. And to really dive into that, their feature Blind Spot will show you stories from outside your political norms, helping you, of course, be better informed. And you can get all this, the app on your phone, on desktop, via an email newsletter. I
have a black pill opinion that I actually think that people don't want to hear a balanced opinion. I just think that they want to hear their opinion repeated to them. I wonder how popular an app like this really is.
Help keep you informed and to fight the bias of headlines that spread virally over social media and just confuse all of us. So if that sounds good to you, go to ground.news/Bellular. Over there, they're offering our viewers a 30% off discount on the Vantage subscription. It's an awesome service, even just being able to quickly read through all the stories, compare the headlines, see the summaries of what's going on. It's just a really damn powerful tool. So you can check out my code down below. With that said, let's roll.
They're not trying to hide what they did. They know that they made a mistake. They know that their controversial launch, they know
everybody knows Cyberpunk sucked dick at release. There's like 50 different videos about it. It was like a national news story how much dick this game sucked.
Their game not working at all, their game being half-cooked, even after 10 years of work. They know that the deceptive marketing around the console versions, they know that the review practices that were outright unethical, They know all of those.
The review practices, by the way, that Matt's talking about, basically Cyberpunk had sent out a review copy that was not the finalized copy of the game for reviewers to talk about. And then they updated the version to something that was more buggy later on. So all the reviews went out on this version of the game that had significantly less problems, and it got higher scores. And then whenever the game comes out, then you see a different version of the game. So, yeah.
Happened. And obviously those were largely the fault of management and the upper echelon at CD Projekt Red, and not the fault of the devs. But they're all responsible for the product, and their name is on that product. So I think it's telling of who we're dealing with that their response to this is to say the game is fixed. And I think a big question is that blustering? Is that the game is fixed now, we promise, come buy it, here's our marketing wave, please, we're running out of money? Or is this a genuine, listen, we've righted our wrongs, here's our apology, not an outright apology, not groveling at our feet, but the token of, yeah, we're sorry about that. Can we make things right? Can things go back to normal now?
Let me see. I'm gonna look right here. I played this game for 28 hours. No, there's no way I played 28 hours. I must have I think I left it on overnight one day. I played it for probably about half that, like 14 hours. I have had fun, I would say, for 14 hours. Yeah. Like, I had fun playing the game. Like, it was a fun game. Like, I actually look forward to playing it again. Like, yeah. Fuck. I don't know. Like, do you think it's one of the best first-person RPGs of all time? I don't know. I don't think I've played enough to compare. Like, I'll say this, right, is that I've enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed Starfield. Like, I think that so far, Cyberpunk 2077 was a lot more enjoyable than Starfield. And maybe this is going to be... Okay, so, like, I didn't finish The Witcher 3, so it's actually kind of comparable with Cyberpunk, right? I think that the storyline and the pacing of Cyberpunk in the time that I played it was better than The Witcher 3. The only part of The Witcher 3 that I thought was like super fucking S tier that I did were the 3 crones. I really like that. I thought that was incredible. Like, that was my favorite part of the story. And also, like, I love The Witcher. Like, I want to replay it, or not even replay it. I want to finish the whole game. I thought it was a great game. I loved it. But I like Cyberpunk more. Like, and this is just, guys, this is just my opinion. Like, I'm not saying that, like, this is the only opinion that you should be able to have. No, this is just how I feel about the situation. You haven't played much of Witcher 3? Well, wouldn't that make it a great comparison, right? And it's weird because, like, Witcher, like, the aesthetic of Witcher is something I liked a lot. I like more. But something about Cyberpunk, I don't know, I really liked it. What do you want me to say? Like, I think that the Cyberpunk intro, the only game that I think is on that same level of an intro is Final Fantasy 16 that I've played recently. Like, the Final Fantasy 16 intro was fucking insane. It was so good. And I'm trying to think, like, what else really was there? I don't know. The Legion intro? Yeah, it was really cool. Well, anyway, yeah. This was... That's my opinion about the game.
And I think that's happened because here's from PC Gamer, just whenever the patch went live. I know someone told you it was time to play 2077 every time I got a patch, but for real, it's time now. Yeah. And I think that's a sentiment a lot of people have seen, because you look here, and obviously 26th September, that's the actual like launch date of Phantom Liberty. That's up at 230,000. But you see here, this little bit, that was 100,000 players going, or about 80, 90,000 players going, I'll give it a try. And they did. And they continued to. And that kept going.
It probably was like the day that they announced the DLC, right? Or they came out with that trailer.
So before the expansion launched, they hit about 160, 170,000 peak players, which is obviously, nothing compared to the 1 million peak when it was the big game of the talk. But to get a fifth of that back is impressive. You see here, it's up to 5th in the most played games of Steam for that period of time. But that's not just returning players coming back to play the game they bought, like you might expect. Steam's global top 3 at this point was actually all Cyberpunk. It was the game itself been sold separately, it was the DLC been sold separately, and it was the bundle containing all 2 of them together.
I read some of the comments on my video of playing the game, and there were a lot of people who were messaging me, and they were like, or they were responding on the comments, and they're like, bro, like, I started playing this game like this week, or I started playing this game this month, or whatever, right? And it's really fun. Yeah, there were tons of people that were saying the same thing.
And those were the top 3. So this is basically the second launch of Cyberpunk 2077. And the question is, the bad version got 1 million players? Is this one good? And the resounding answer is yes. The reception has been extremely positive across basically all fronts, right? You see people here with, here's the Guerrilla Arms 2.0, holy shit. And this is just, here's some gameplay revamps. We have changed core parts of this game to literally make it more fun. This guy is running around beating the ever-loving shit out of someone with these, like, enhanced...
I think also another big reason why this game is, like, very well received is that the game doesn't really pull any punches. Like, the dialogue is, like, extremely fucking raunchy and raw. This dude literally just, like, crushed a girl's skull, like, right in first person. There's blood everywhere. Like, it's just... It's extremely, like, edgy. It's unironically very edgy. And I think that that's what people like. And I think especially, like, after we saw how... Like, I would say how, like, you know, like, I feel like a lot of people that play Cyberpunk, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the people that played Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty, probably tried Starfield. Probably, right? Or maybe they, like, saw their friend play it, or they looked at content for it. So, like, people see that, and they're like, this is a lot better, right? It's, like, such a massive difference. Starfield's milquetoast? Yeah, it is. You play Pulp Fiction 2077? Yeah, exactly. That's what I said, like, at the very beginning with, like, that one girl.
Obviously, arms. That's one of the fantasy...
I also think that one thing that makes the combat really good is the slow motion, because it allows you to see what's happening as it happens, and it gives you time to, like, process, like, the crazy shit that's going on.
Of gameplay in Cyberpunk, that is, what if I just go around smashing heads together? That's one of the fantasies, and now it's possible. Yeah. And then look at this, right? The air dash ability with the reinforced tendons, you basically bunny hop through Night City.
Fuck.
That's the kind of thing that if you're making a build in an RPG, if you're playing around with stuff, that's the stuff people really like to do. That's the fantasy, that's the...
People love being able to move around and jump around and for it to feel good. It's something that's so small, but yeah.
Maybe it's not like super tied to the narrative, but when people play your game, they want to do stuff like this. And then you've even got, you know, bullet deflection with the katana. Does that make a lot of sense? No? Is that cool as shit?
Yeah, but
yes.
they had that in John Wick, right? I mean, that they would block bullets with swords in John Wick. Nobody cares about it being realistic, bro. Like, who gives a fuck?
That's what people always wanted to do when you think, you know, you're a cyberpunk samurai. What are you going to do? Of course you're going to be deflecting bullets. Of course you're going to turn...
And also, like, by the way, let's actually get specific with this. In Ghost in the Shell standalone complex... This was actually one of the plot points in one of the narratives in the story, right? Is that, like, the way that, like, the robots or the people there, they could actually detect and, like, stop bullets. So the idea that you couldn't do that, or that you won't be able to do that, is stupid. Like, doesn't Israel have, like, this massive thing that shoots down rockets before they actually hit the city? Yeah, the Iron Dome. Yeah. So I'm actually not even convinced that this is impossible. That's just air defense, though. Well, I'm just saying, like, it's a proof of concept.
This, like, game that was kind of overpowered into, like, range stuff where melee was kind of weak or a little weird, and then give them strength that way. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm sure the developers wanted in its initial release, but couldn't get done in time because of pressure from above.
See, that's the good
shit
sure right
the
there.
Developers wanted in its initial release, but
that's
couldn't
the
get
quality.
done in time because of pressure from above or whatever
Love
problems
to
were going
see
on.
it.
Another one of the problems with the game was that people were very much like expecting a little bit more of a sandbox, right? And one of the best parts of a sandbox is whenever you kind of break things and you act the bad guy, you play the bad guy, you play the villain, you play the overpowered, like, crazy cyborg who's going on wrecking stuff. And in this clip here, it's the SWAT style max tactical. And this is just someone's going to go and cause a rampage, let's see how the world responds. And a responsive world is part of an open world game, part of an RPG, part of a like the sim stuff, and they've nailed that finally. It also helps that it's absolutely beautiful, right? They've rebuilt the game's progression. They've rebuilt.
Yeah, you want to have it to where like you can play game. Yeah, 5-star boys. Yeah, probably not a good time. But anyway, like you want to have it to where people can do crazy shit in the game. It's a single player game, so there's no reason not to let people do that.
And now, right? Now, all of the narrative stuff, obviously I said at the top of this, the cinematic director was saying the mood, story, characters, art direction, music and stuff were all good from the start. With a little bit of tweaking and with the game around it, with the scaffolding of the game design supporting it and being stronger and being more fun, now people are more happy to engage with it and enjoy it. And that's part of why I actually ended up like buying this now, despite it not really been on my radar for a game, because I don't really have time to play.
Yeah, I never
RPGs
thought about
anymore.
playing this game before this.
Branch out and play a lot more hundreds of hours of Metroidvania, because that's my jam. I can't stop it. But I bought it because people were talking to me about the vibes. People were talking to me about how good Cyberpunk actually was at the time, for being like this not like extremely philosophical, but like this decently thoughtful experience into the transhumanism of Cyberpunk, into the themes of that world, into that dystopia, into what Cyberpunk actually is. And that was the thing people were
I think the reason why Cyberpunk does pretty well, and the reason why the narrative is compelling, is that it's a futuristic take on an existing narrative. So, for example, like with a game like Starfield or like Star Wars or something that's like very high-tech sci-fi, what happens is that like you get into moral dilemmas and like these theoretical like plot points that the individual can't really relate to. There's no way that an individual can relate to a lot of the stories on like you know, space travel, like fucking like space dilemmas, stuff like that. It's so far removed from what like the human experience is that people are familiar with, that they're not able to really empathize with it. Does that make sense? So with Cyberpunk, I think the reason why it hits well is it's Cyberpunk 2077, not Cyberpunk like 7077. Like a lot of the things that you're seeing in the game are still things that happen in real life, and the things that are different are still, they're not so fantastical and insane that they're not even comprehensible to a person. So they maintain that level of it maintains a level of relatability. The fact that you're playing a street thug makes it somewhat relatability. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's why it's because comparatively it's grounded, like it's completely fantastical and it's totally sci-fi, it's totally fake, but it is more grounded than like hyper super sci-fi, something like Destiny, for example, or Halo.
Excited for in the first place. Obviously people obviously love the gameplay parts of that RPG side, but an awful lot of it was, this is something new and different and cool, and it's from CDPR, who are unapologetically strong at this. But now that's there, you can enjoy it without any caveats. You don't have to play a bad game to get the good stuff. Now you get both. Yeah. And there's so much more of it too. And I'll tell you in a bit the real reason I actually bought Phantom Liberty. So here's Pavel Sasko, right? He's the quest director for Phantom Liberty. And this was their one chance. This was the only expansion for the game.
Does it feel good? Trust us one more time.
This was them saying, listen, we can never have a first impression again with Cyberpunk 2077. All we can do is fix it. But where we can give you a new first impression is with the expansion launch. And look at that. 100% critic recommendation. 90 top critic average. Some of it might be...
And also I don't... Critic recommendation. Okay. Who cares? I care about what the actual people think. The audience is what matters. The audience has liked it a lot. And it's been tremendously positive. Like, critics aren't real. The audience is.
Positive from bleeding into like the Cyberpunk story and stuff.
Actual
but
people.
Like, you know, the meta narrative of CDPR in the game.
Yeah.
But Pavel said, I really wanted to make you all proud, especially those who are with us for the good and the bad. I hope you feel it was worth the trust this one more time, and I wish you a fucking blast with Phantom Liberty. Like, here's the story in 2 images, right? Phantom Liberty, good across the board. Cyberpunk, not very good. And please note, significant disparities in performance. That's not what you want to see. So now that's gone.
Yeah, anytime there's a warning for a video game, that's a bad time.
I will say, SkillUp did point out a couple of things about the review saying.
Why does critic review even matter then? I too want normal people giving it a review. I think critic reviews matter because, like, so it really, I think critic reviews are they're vestigial at this point, right? They are a thing of the past. Their relevance and their importance was much more meaningful whenever information wasn't as available. Now, there's so much more information available to the average person. I'll give you an example, right? Before the internet, how could you really look up and find all of the information to inform yourself about the history of how video games were made? This would be a very big endeavor. Like, imagine trying to do that in the year 1995. But now you have so many tools and so many resources that you can just like immediately inform yourself on these topics, that the knowledge that like a critic would have from interfacing with these kinds of things all the time is not really as far advanced than an average person. And also because everybody has a voice and the voices of the people are democratized, where like the highest voted reviews get the best scores in general, right? And they're the ones that are the most promoted. So you're going to have a natural, effectively a free market that creates basically reviews that encapsulate the mind of a lot of people. And I think this is a tremendous and amazing thing. And I am a very big fan of reviews. Now, obviously, reviews, like, where is a point of value that I think reviews can have that an average person would not have? And I'm trying to think about that. And I don't really know. People are more likely to give negative feedback. They are more likely to give negative feedback. Review bombing? Okay, so let's talk about review bombing. Good games don't get review bombed. Bad games get review bombed. Games that disappoint audiences. Games that do things that the audience doesn't want get review bombed. So I don't like this idea in political games. Yes, games that use some sort of social issue and they put it in the video game. And you know what? Politics is a part of our culture. And video games are an expression of our culture. And if people don't like that expression of our culture, they are totally in their right to express that. And if enough people don't like that, this is an entertainment product. And fundamentally, if people don't like it, then they have every right to say that they don't like it. Reviewers get early copies? Yeah, that's true. I think that's the main reason why you have critical reviews, is early copies. Yeah, review bombs are just reviews. Yeah, I think, review bombs, that's actually such a good way I love that, because it's so simple and it's so true. Review bombs are actually just reviews. True. You have to actually didn't play the game. I think that you should be able to, you should have to actually play the game to give it a review. Definitely. But I don't think you should have to play the game for like a huge amount of time to give it a review. It should just be, I like how I think Steam does it the best, right? Where like it contextualizes every single review around the amount of hours the individual played the game. Yeah. What if a group of anti-furries review bombed a game meant for furries? Okay, that's fine. Being a furry is weird, it's socially deviant, and there are a lot of connections to being a furry, and like how many people do you think that are attracted to actual animals that are furries? I would say a higher percentage than the average population. Like, I think somebody can be a furry, but like, you don't deserve to have your sexual fetish immune to criticism. You don't deserve this. This is not your right. Now, you deserve to be able to practice it with other consenting adults. But you do not deserve to be immune from criticism. It's not a fetish. Yes, it is. Being a furry is a fetish. It absolutely is. What are we even talking about? Mortismal Gaming does a great job with game reviews. I completely agree. Sort of criticism can you have for someone else's personal preferences, though? Is it actual criticism? Yeah, I think it is. I think a lot of people think certain things are just really weird, and it makes them uncomfortable that that type of content's being promoted and it's out there in the world. I think people can express their dislike for something even if they don't actively consume it. You can leave a negative review for something, like a bad restaurant that you don't like their food. Can you leave a bad review for a bad restaurant? Well, what if somebody else does like the food? Okay, that's fine. Everybody has the right to put out their opinion about things. I think it's stupid too if people want to go and review bomb a game. But like the world that you live in, where people can only talk about things that they like, isn't a world that you want to live in. I understand that there are instances of people that are unreasonable who give reviews on things who probably shouldn't be giving reviews. You're right. But I think that negative is much more preferable than the chance that people cannot express themselves. Because that's what you're effectively advocating for. People need to have an opinion. Yes, they need to have it. They need to be able to have an opinion. Review bomb is just a side effect of a game being bad. Yep, there you go. Exactly right. It's a necessary evil. Yes, it is. Actually, a fetish is something required to orgasm. A kink is what you're thinking of? For sure, man. Okay, anyway, let's keep going.
That CDPR said only B-roll only, not your own footage, which is, I mean, he puts it best. It's bullshit, but CDPR, nothing to hide. Phantom Liberty is fantastic. Now, here's the reason I went and bought Phantom Liberty. Because I'm a big fan of RPGs, and especially the guys who like work at RPG site, they are some of the most solid dudes that I've ever actually seen post stuff online, right? And Alex Donaldson gave it 10 out of 10. Over in Phantom Liberty, new and old mechanics are given the chance to shine. The expansion is the most glorious of things, a game confidently leaning into its strengths and sometimes delighting in subverting expectations with that knowledge. Another thing he said about it was, as far as an expansion goes, it's one of the all-time greats. And yeah, if that's not an apology for destroying your expectations, if that's not an apology for misleading you...
Yeah, a lot of people's expectations were very low, but it's massively been an improvement. Yeah, I would say so. Let's see here. A game can be an actual perfect game, but as soon as it's something that's determined controversial today, like pronouns, it'll get review bombed. The truth is that people have a right to do that. They have a right to express that they don't like pronouns in games. Are you trying to tell me that somebody shouldn't be allowed to dislike pronouns in video games? That's insane. Like, they can make their own decision. These are adults. And also, again, these video games are forms of culture and forms of entertainment. These video games do not exist in a vacuum. Like, I guarantee you the way that they release video games like this in the Middle East is probably fucking different than the way that they do here. And you know why? It's because of the culture. And if they added that stuff in those other countries, those other people would not be happy about it. That's really what it comes down to. This is called double standards. What is the double standard? I'm confused. You should be able to criticize pronouns or whatever they don't like or don't like. No, you shouldn't. And again, something in Starfield looks good. Game looks good, objectively gets good. Its review bomb would get lost among the overwhelmingly positive reviews anyway. Yeah, so like here's a good example. And I think also like, yeah, this stuff is like really not that true either. Like, so for example, Baldur's Gate 3 added pronouns. Let's see if I can find it. Where's Metacritic? Something like this. I'm not sure exactly where it is specifically, but you know, I'm sure some people ranked it down. Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have pronouns? Oh, wait a second. I saw that there was an update to Baldur's Gate 3 that added pronouns. Am I wrong? It does. Okay, so I am right. Okay, good. So there you go. 96 and an 8.9. Pretty good. And also, if a lot of people don't like pronouns in a video game, are you telling me that they don't have the right to express that? They shouldn't be able to express that? These video games are an expression of culture. Pronouns are part of culture. This is their ability to express that. Just as it is your ability to express that they're fucking stupid. Isn't it great? People can say what they think. What about people botting reviews since they dislike the game so much? What's the problem? People botting reviews since they dislike the game so much. What if the company botted reviews because they wanted people to see the reviews? So is the problem with review bombing or is the problem with botting? Like, what the fuck? And that's what I meant by these people having double standards whenever they don't like people disliking pronouns and agendas. Everybody, listen. Everybody has a double standard. Okay? Keep this in mind. They want to be able to express themselves, and they don't want other people to express themselves that they disagree with. That's how most people think. This isn't some kind of like fucking five-head like realization. Most people want power so they can take it away from somebody else. Most people want control so they can control somebody else. It's not just themselves. That's just the start. Like, people are so delusional with these ideals. No, most people don't have ideals. Most people have a functional mindset that leads them to a goal that is self-beneficial. I couldn't care less about pronouns. Thought the issue is it's unskippable. You had to choose in Starfield. I don't give a fuck. I think people just didn't like it. That's it. It's literally that simple. Remember Mortal Kombat 11 was review bombed back in the day because there wasn't enough nudity? Review bombs are not always means the game's bad. Well, yeah, it does, because people like Mortal Kombat for the nudity. And they like the really hot characters and the really cool, like, fatalities. And a lot of the characters in Mortal Kombat are really hot. They have super revealing outfits, and they're super in shape. They're really sexy. So yeah, people are unhappy that it doesn't show that off. What's wrong with that? You think that's not fair? That's what the game sells. That's a legitimate fucking opinion. Yeah, it's a fucking point. Let's keep going, all right? I can go on this for a long time. But point is, everybody should be able to review for whatever the fuck they want.
Cases, I don't know what is. Now, obviously, you know, developers weren't the ones who made the mistakes. It was the management, was the production, the executive level who made those mistakes. But
yeah,
as a whole, they've come together and they've apologized by saying, we should have made a good game. We're sorry about that. Here's our good game.
Really
now.
Cool.
But to continue with some other stuff, the result is an expansion that reflects, refracts, and enriches the game around it. Dogtown's environmental design is one of the most impressive aspects of this expansion. Every structure in Dogtown is haunted by the ghost of a promising future deferred by economic blight and the pernicious whims of thieves, murderers turned power brokers, and politicians. Even an 87 from PC Gamer kind of feels low in comparison here, but he says CD Projekt can hang with the big dogs when it comes to cinematic storytelling, with the quality of writing and world building that I prefer to the likes of Sony's vaunted first party lineup.
There you go.
And that's it, right? That's it. People want really high quality games, but a lot of really high quality games comes at the cost of being production friendly, or it comes at the cost of being very broad, very not niche, right? Very, because
you have a game that appeals to everybody. That's like Starfield, right? Starfield is so bland and so broad that anybody can play it and nobody will be immediately alienated from it. And I think this is a big issue that games have. Like Diablo 4, I think, runs into the same problem.
If you have a game that costs however many hundreds of millions of dollars, you need to guarantee the sales, which means you need to broaden your horizons.
Horizon?
I didn't mean
I always wanted
Horizon
to
as
try
a pun,
this game.
but let's pretend I did. You need something that is, you need something that is widely marketable. And Cyberpunk is in a little bit of a way, but it's mostly like, it's so unapologetic thematically. It's not it's not the kind of game just anyone picks up. It has teeth, it has edge, it has all the things that people want out of video games. Especially now that all of the gameplay changes have happened and all of that like creativity.
Now what they have to do is make this an MMO.
And freedom and RPG stuff is actually
finally. That's the next step.
You can see
obviously.
that this is what it should have been all along, and now that this is what we're actually getting, it's genuinely fantastic. Here's some insights from Twitter that I always particularly enjoy. All the Cyberpunk DLC reviews seem really positive, which is not surprising because huge immersive RPGs with aimless main campaigns and a handful of great side quests often have really good DLC. That's when you're legally allowed to make something interesting. And that is mostly because it's the same with a lot of DLC and the same with some sequels, right? Where the DLCs are often, we can take every lesson we learned making this game, this game that's like pretty good, it's pretty good, whatever, but it's big and we have to make it. We have to learn how we're making it while we're making it. But when you start the DLC, you've already learned everything. You already know. You go, I could have done every single thing better there. I could have done, this better, this better, this better. Now I've got a chance. And now we have, I'm sure they still add here, but, less technical questions. We have more experience in implementation. We have a much tighter scope. And that leads to, I think, a combination of what people loved about expansion packs in the past and DLC in the past. Big games are great. Small games are great. Why can we not have both in the same product? And the answer here is they did it. So this is the end of Cyberpunk 2077. This is a final note on what I think was a horrible...
So many spoilers? I have no idea what the fuck just happened. Yeah, I'm not spoiled about anything.
Story for...
Also, I've always been of the mindset that I really appreciate a story for the way that it's told, not what exactly was said. Like, for example, I think they could have actually made the Game of Thrones ending kind of work. They just did it badly.
CD Projekt Red, obviously their fault, and for us as consumers, I think a lot of people were probably burned by the years and years and years of excitement, and that ultimately being like a rug pull from underneath you. And there's a lot that's already been said, but I'm more than happy to see at least this big company, CDPR, learn from their mistakes. And you can argue that they learned...
Yeah, it's a W for everybody, right? Because, like, this is another example of a game developer who... They put out a bad game, and they double down on improving the game, making it better for the people that like it, and it is a massive success, and it is profitable. And what that does is that in the industry of making video games, it shows every other developer out there, don't give up whenever you get something out there that doesn't work right at the beginning. Continue making it better for your audience. And here are use cases. Here's No Man's Sky. Here's Cyberpunk. Here's, I don't know, I think they're like... Maybe like Shadowlands was improved a lot from the beginning, right? I mean, even that. Diablo, Witcher 3, I don't know about Witcher 3, but I think there's been, yeah, Final Fantasy 14, another great example. And it's another point on the graph that it's worth it to keep trying to give the people that bought your game the experience that they wanted. So even if you're not a fan of Cyberpunk, you should want to see this succeed for that reason.
Their mistakes because it's necessary, because if you learn from your mistakes, or if you just make the same mistake again, then your company dies, because reputation is value and you've lost your value. But I think it's actually important to think to keep in mind that an apology, cynical or otherwise, is still an apology.
It is.
And as far as meeting the needs of their consumers by releasing Phantom Liberty, by fixing Cyberpunk.
And this is why it's so important to have, again, reviews, right? It's so important to have like YouTube videos of people talking about these games. You should never pre-order a video game. There is never an advantage for you to pre-order a video game. So, like, I pre-order because, like, money doesn't matter to me. I'm a streamer. It's my job. And I want to make sure I'm playing it as early as possible. You are not a streamer, the odds are. No reason for you to pre-order. Give it a day. Yes, there is. You help the developer. You're right. And if you, that's actually true. If you really believe in the developer, same as like Kickstarter, right? Kickstarter is pre-ordering a video game in like an abstract way. If you really believe in it, then I think you should do it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. Yeah, let me step that back for a minute. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. However, I don't think pre-orders have any value for the consumer. I do think, obviously, as a developer, if I was making a video game, I would absolutely allow for pre-orders, especially if it was multiplayer. So that would help me get a head count for server space and stuff like that. It's like kind of common sense, and it's like free money. But as a consumer, there are very minimal advantages.
2077 that they've earned back trust. Maybe not all of it. Maybe, you know, maybe they'll never get it all back. But in a way that's different to the recent Unity story, right? Because the recent story of Unity was that they showed their true colors, and everyone went, we will never trust you again, no matter what you do. This is a case where they kind of proved, or at least they mostly proved, this was a mistake, and we will not make it again. So I'm very much looking forward to getting into Phantom Liberty, because I'm a big fan of these kinds of stories. I'm a big fan of game design being perfect. And it sounds to me, especially if I look back at RPG sets 10 out of 10, it looks like Phantom Liberty is the perfect send-off for an unfortunate beginning. With that, that was the Engoodening of Cyberpunk 2077. Not as clear-cut.
I'll be curious to see if they make another DLC, because doesn't Witcher have 2 DLCs?
One that leaves me feeling happy and excited to play a game all the same. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with more news.
Yeah, this is a great video. So, like, maybe they will, maybe they won't. They said no. Yeah, but I mean, it did sell pretty well, though, right? I mean, like, who knows what's going to happen? They said it's done, nothing more. If they don't make another DLC, this is going to sound crazy, but I will actually have a lot of respect for them. You know? Because it's done. The story's over. It's kind of like From Software. There's never been any conversation of a Bloodborne 2 or Sekiro 2. No. The story's over. It was a great game. Yes. Now we're going to make a new game. And that's it.